You're listening to The Jacob Valk Show. He's breaking down the latest and greatest in sports as only he can. Follow him on Twitter at RealJacobValk. Here he is, Jacob Valk.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to another edition of the Jacob Valk Show. I am Jacob Valk, and before I get into the trifecta, there's one piece of sports news that I want to talk about. According to Darren Drager of TSN, Peter Laviolette is the favorite for becoming the next Devils head coach. We knew that they were down to 4 finalists. Their current interim head coach, Elan Nasreddine, was one of them. Laviolette obviously was one of them, and we don't know who the other 2 were. I think it's a great move if the Devils bring in Laviolette. I've always liked Laviolette. He's been successful wherever he's been. With the Islanders, he was really, really good. With the Hurricanes, he won a Stanley Cup. With the Flyers, he was good. With the Predators, they made the playoffs every year he was there. Including this year, too. The Predators are in this crazy play-in tournament that the league is doing. This is a guy who is probably the best head coach on the market. In my opinion, he's better than Gerard Gallant. He's definitely better than Mike Babcock. He's better than any other coach out there. The Devils couldn't do any better than bringing in Laviolette. I mean, I said when the Predators moved on from him that he'd be out of work for 2 seconds. Now, granted, it was longer than 2 seconds, but he wasn't out of work for very long. It is kind of funny, though, that John Hines, the former Devils coach, goes to Nashville, and it's looking like Laviolette could go to New Jersey. Shades of the Canucks and Rangers with John Tortorella and Alain Vigneault. The Devils are kind of a weird team. They're obviously going with a youth movement. Laviolette has had success with that in the past. But their 2 best players, Kyle Palmieri and Nikita Gusev, are in the primes of their career. They're both in that 27-28 range. Now, don't get me wrong, they have some really good young players. Guys like Nico Hischier, Jesper Bratt, Pavel Zacha, Will Butcher, Mackenzie Blackwood looks like he's the real deal at goalie. But it's just kind of a weird Devils team. I think Laviolette will be able to turn them around. Again, this is a guy who's had success everywhere he's ever been. I don't see any reason why he wouldn't have success in New Jersey. The one thing I'll say is, though, it's kind of weird that they're moving so quickly on a head coach when they still don't have a full-time GM. Tom Fitzgerald is their interim GM. He does not have the full-time job officially. Now, maybe he was told that, yes, you're going to be the GM going forward. That's why they're moving so quickly on the head coaching search. But it's just kind of weird that the Devils are doing all this without a full-time GM in place. But whoever that GM is going to be, he should hire Laviolette. He's the best head coach available. It would be a fantastic get for the Devils. Alright, I've been waiting for this for a long time. It's time to recap the New England Patriots 2020 NFL Draft Class. You know, there's a school of thought that says, don't criticize Bill Belichick. Belichick knows more about football than you. He's earned the right to escape criticism. And I understand that, but how on God's earth can I not criticize this draft class? Last time I checked, Tom Brady signed with the Buccaneers. It opened up a huge hole at quarterback for the Patriots. The first time that I can remember that they've needed a new quarterback. Belichick passes on Jacob Eason. He passes on Jake Fromm. He didn't take Jordan Love. Instead, he traded down with the Chargers. He didn't take a single quarterback. The only new quarterback on the Patriots is Brian Lewerke. Look, I like Lewerke. I think he can turn into a decent player going forward. But you've got to do better than that. They also signed Jamar Smith out of Louisiana Tech. So their quarterback depth chart looks like Jarrett Stidham, Brian Hoyer, Brian Lewerke, and Jamar Smith. I know that the Patriots like Stidham. That's obvious. And maybe Stidham's the real deal. I'm not saying he's not. The only thing I'm saying is, you have a guy like Jacob Eason, who I had as a second-round talent, slip to the 4th round. And this wasn't just me that had Eason as a second-round talent. ESPN had him as the 56th best prospect in this draft. Jake Fromm was ahead of him at 54. The fact that the Patriots didn't take a single quarterback is criminal. I remember something that Bill Simmons said. He said on Twitter that it got to the point where he was hoping that the Patriots would take Jake Fromm. Obviously, he ended up with the Bills. And Fromm was a guy who just profiled as a solid game manager. You know, if you're begging for your team to take Jake Fromm, you're not in a good spot. The moral of the story is that the Patriots needed to take a quarterback. They didn't, and I'm gonna ding them for it. I'm also gonna ding them for taking Kyle Duggar. I understand that this is what the Patriots do. They take these players from small schools that no one's ever heard of. Lenore Ryan is in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm sure you didn't know that. I'm also sure you didn't know that they play in the Division II South Atlantic Conference. I get that that's what the Patriots do, but Kyle Duggar was such an egregious reach. There were so many better safeties available. One pick ahead of him, Xavier McKinney went to the Giants. You can't tell me that the Patriots couldn't have moved up 2 spots. If they didn't want to move up, Grant Delpit and Antoine Winfield Jr. were still on the board. Jeremy Chin was too. Duggar's just so blasted injury prone. I just am terrified of him. He has a great frame. He played great at Lenoir-Rhyne. You want to talk about a man among boys? That was Duggar. Great cover skills, great ball skills, great run support, smart player. I understand that. But his durability scares the ever-loving mercy out of me. If he can stay healthy, the Patriots found themselves a solid player. If not, the Patriots drafted a bust. And even if Duggar's able to stay healthy, there's no way that he'll be better than Delpit, Winfield, or Chin. I'll exclude McKinney if the Patriots really didn't want to trade up. Josh Uche, or Uche, I don't remember how he pronounces it off the top of my head. I should know it, but this goes back to my point that everyone should be named John Smith. You can change the first name if you want to something that's also easy to pronounce. If you want to change the last name to something that's easy to pronounce, like Adams or Johnson or something like that, I don't mind that either. This is a guy with a ton of talent. Started last year at Michigan for the first time in his college career. He spent 4 years at Michigan. Was only a 1-year starter. That scares me. But last year he played really well. Had 8.5 sacks. I thought he was the 41st best prospect in this draft. The Patriots got him at 60. And for a team that needed an outside linebacker, they couldn't have done much better. Really smart player. Plays with a fire under his ass. Really good pass rusher. Solid against the run. The thing is, he doesn't have a great frame, 6'1", 245. And the fact that he's a 1-year starter does scare me a little bit, but that was a good pick. Anthony Jennings had a really good college career, stood out at Alabama, one of the best tacklers in this draft, really good against the run, good in one-on-one battles, smart player, decent frame. The thing is, though, I don't see him as a 3-down linebacker. I don't see him as the kind of guy who can drop back into coverage. I see him as a guy who's just going to be able to blitz. He's not good in coverage. Having said that, though, the Patriots really needed an outside linebacker. They could have stood to add 2. I can live with that. That's where I'll give Belichick a pass. And this fit Jennings' range perfectly as a 3rd rounder. Devin Asiasi was a solid tight end throughout his UCLA career. He wasn't great or anything, but he was solid. Does everything you want a tight end to do. He can block, he can catch, he can run, he's durable, he has a good frame. I really liked Asiasi in this draft. He was, for lack of a better term, one of my sleeper players, although I don't know how much of a sleeper he could be. He was ranked by ESPN as the 69th best player in this draft. I had an early to mid third round grade on him. The Patriots needed a tight end. You know how much Belichick loves his tight ends. Great pick there. But to follow that up by taking Dalton Keene, a 6th rounder, to me, a guy who ESPN had as the 197th best player in this draft, is criminal. This guy did nothing at Virginia Tech. He's not fast at all. He's an average blocker. He'll be able to hold his own as a pass catcher if he's just asked to catch like 5 or 6 yard passes, but that's not what Belichick wants his tight ends to do. He wants them to be game wreckers. That's not Keene. I was doing backflips over this pick as a Jets fan. What an abysmal pick. And to double dip a tight end, they really didn't need 2 tight ends. In the 5th round, at 159th overall, Jake Fromm was still on the board. He went 167. You know that the Patriots passed on him. You know who they took instead? They took a kicker. Justin Rohrwasser. Look, nothing against him. I'm sure he's going to be a solid kicker. Belichick started out as a special teams coordinator. I'm not doubting him there. I'm sure Rohrwasser is going to be fine. He'll follow in the footsteps of Vinatieri and Gostkowski. But how do you take a kicker before a quarterback? If this was any other team, any other GM, there would have been protests outside the team facility. There would have been people calling for his head. Could you imagine if the Jets did this, if the Giants did this, if the Browns did this? Just because he's Belichick, he gets a pass? A total pass? I understand he gets a little bit of a pass, but he doesn't get a total pass. That was one of the worst picks of this draft. The fact that he had that tattoo controversy doesn't bother me. For those of you who don't know, he has a tattoo of the 3 Percenters, which is a white supremacist hate group according to the Southern Poverty Law Center and the Anti-Defamation League. Rohrwasser has claimed ignorance. He said he thought it signified military support. I believe him. I have no reason to doubt him. Obviously, I don't know the kid, but when you're young, you make stupid decisions. I believe that he got that tattoo without looking fully into it. The moral of the story is, if you're going to get a tattoo, make sure it's one that you're okay with being on your body for the rest of your life. Michael Onwenu is insanely athletic. This is a guy who was highly sought after coming out of high school. He has a really good frame. The thing is, he's not really good with his footwork. He's not good with his hands. He picked up a lot of bad habits at Michigan. I mean, like I said, this is a guy who, when he was coming out of high school, was viewed as a future star. He didn't turn into that. I just don't see him translating well into the NFL. You want to take a chance on him in the 6th round, you can. God knows the Patriots have had luck with that before, but I wasn't crazy about that pick. Justin Herron is really an interesting player. He was a 6th-year senior last year at Wake Forest. He turned 25 in November. He has a short shelf life. He's going to need to produce immediately. He played well at Wake Forest, though. He has a solid frame at 6'3", 308 pounds. Decent in pass protection, but when it comes to run blocking, he's terrible. One of the worst run blockers in this draft. But he's a smart player. He should be, since he's 25 years old and still in college, or was still in college. Tough player. I don't mind that pick at all. Cash Malawia has one of the best names in this draft. Key and Peele type name. Fast player. Ran a 4.53 40 at his pro day. Worst case scenario, he's a solid special teamer. The biggest red flag to me is his character. He was arrested for DUI. He was suspended 1 game in 2018 for it. He's not the strongest guy in the world. He's not the smartest guy in the world. He's worth the chance in the late 6th round. Again, worst comes to worst, the Patriots drafted a special teamer. I don't mind that pick at all. Maybe I'm biased because he has an awesome name. They should make a movie out of Dustin Woodard. This guy is insanely undersized at center. 6'2", 285 pounds. But you know what? At Memphis, he was solid. Started all over the O-line. 4-year starter, never missed a game. Tough player, not a pushover. His frame scares the ever-loving mercy out of me, and he doesn't have a lot of experience in pass protection because Memphis just runs this really weird offense where the quarterback doesn't have to hold on to the football that long. But Woodard can work out. I'm glad he was taken. He deserved to be taken. I'll be rooting for him. He's undersized. I hope he makes it. Not for the Patriots. Go somewhere else and make it. Don't make it for the Patriots. Yes, I'm a Jets fan. All in all, I have to ding the Patriots for not taking a quarterback. It was by far and away their biggest need, and they didn't address it. I mean, if you want to tell me that none of the quarterbacks in this draft had a higher ceiling than Stidham, you're dreaming. Jacob Eason does. I mean, did you really love Jarrett Stidham coming out of Auburn? I know that Belichick did. But did you? It's hard to give the Patriots anything better than a C+ here. I didn't like the Duggar pick. I didn't like the Dalton Keene pick. Taking a kicker that high with Jake Fromm sitting there was really dumb. I had half a mind to give him a C or a C-. I'm giving him a C+ because it's Belichick. Alright, it's time for this day in sports history. On this day, in 2009, one of the greatest moments in recent Yankees history occurred. It's not the greatest. The greatest moment in recent Yankees history is Game 6 of the '09 World Series. After that, it's probably them winning the pennant that year against the Angels. After that, it's probably the Ibanez game against the Orioles. After that, it's probably Jeter's last game at the stadium. After that, it's probably the incredible comeback they had in Game 4 of the 2017 ALCS against the Astros. And then there's this moment. I may have forgotten one, but I don't think I did. On this day in 2009, and I have the biggest Cheshire Cat grin on my face right now, Luis Castillo dropped a game-winning pop-up by Alex Rodriguez, which scored 2 runs, leading the Yankees to an improbable 9-8 win over the Mets. Firstly, let me dispel the notion that there's no Yankees-Mets rivalry. There absolutely is a Yankees-Mets rivalry. You want to tell me it's a one-sided rivalry in favor of the Yankees? You're right. But there's still a rivalry there. There's still a neighborhood rivalry. They're the other local team. You hate your local rival. There's a Jets-Giants rivalry. There's an Islanders-Rangers rivalry. There's a Knicks-Nets rivalry. There's a White Sox-Cubs rivalry. There's an Angels-Dodgers rivalry. There's a Lakers-Clippers rivalry. There's a Yankees-Mets rivalry. I mean, I remember in 2015 seeing people who I knew were Yankees fans rooting like crazy for the Mets over the Royals. It made me want to puke. No one was happier than me when Jeurys Familia blew those saves. There absolutely is a Yankees-Mets rivalry. And the best moment of that rivalry in recent history happened on June 12th, 2009. I was there. Back and forth game. Great game. Both starters really weren't effective. Livan Hernandez started for the Mets. Went 5 1/3. Gave up 6 runs. Jobber Chamberlain only made it 4 innings for the Yankees. Only gave up 2 runs, but still. 100 pitches in 4 innings, that's not good. Brett Tomko came in relief. Remember Brett Tomko? Yeah. I don't either. Tomko was terrible for the Yankees. That I remember. Again, back and forth affair. Really a great game. In the top of the 8th inning, the Mets pulled ahead 8-7 after a David Wright RBI double off Mariano Rivera scored Carlos Beltran from first base. Fast forward to the bottom of the 9th. Francisco Rodriguez came in. This was K-Rod's first year with the Mets. Now, K-Rod isn't remembered as fondly as he should be by Mets fans, but he was a really good closer for the Mets. Put up 20 saves on bad teams. Didn't blow a bunch of games. I understand that you didn't get what you wanted from him in terms of playoff success, but his ERA was always solid. He made an all-star team in 2009. K-Rod was a good Mets closer. In fact, at that time, K-Rod had an under 1 ERA. He had no blown saves. He was insane. I was there. the mood in the ballpark was the Mets were going to win this game. Brett Gardner popped out to Mets catcher Brian Schneider in foul ground. 1 away. Derek Jeter hit a single to center field. Okay, we've got the start of something, but still, you're at first base, K-Rod on the mound, it's not looking too good. Johnny Damon pinch hit for Nick Swisher. Damon struck out swinging, but Jeter was able to steal second base. Tying run in scoring position, Mark Teixeira at bat. Teixeira gets walked to get to Alex Rodriguez. Now, A-Rod was not a particularly clutch hitter. I don't remember him hitting a lot of walk-off home runs. I know he had some. His Yankee career really got off the ground when he hit a walk-off. I think it was a grand slam. It may not have been. But his Yankee career got off the ground when he hit a walk-off home run. He did hit big home runs, but he didn't hit a lot of them. K-Rod falls behind 3-1 on A-Rod. He has to throw a strike here. You don't want to walk the bases loaded to get to Robinson Cano. A-Rod gets under one and hits the laziest pop-up you will ever see, a mile high in shallow right field. It was playable for Luis Castillo. Castillo was a 3-time Gold Glove winner. He had this ball all day. A-Rod slammed his bat down. K-Rod was happy. The mood when he hit that ball a mile high was, oh damn, the Mets are going to win this game. And believe me, I know, I was there. Castillo seems to camp under it, and for whatever reason, he dropped the ball. I don't know why he dropped the ball, but he dropped the ball. Jeter scored from second because it was 2 outs. Everyone was running like crazy, even Teixeira. Teixeira was sent around third. Luis Castillo threw the ball to second base. He didn't throw the ball home. When he recovered, he threw the ball to second. How on God's green earth are you gonna throw the ball to second? Mark Teixeira is able to score because of that boneheaded decision, and the Yankees win one of the most improbable games in their recent history. After that, I was bouncing off the walls. I remember running down River Avenue. Literally running. And if you know me, you know I don't run unless I have a good reason. I texted everyone I knew as I was coming down the escalator what happened. I was elated. Got to a hot dog vendor that I knew. Shout out Ozzy. He couldn't believe it. No one could believe it. It's one of the best moments in recent Yankees history. One of the worst moments in recent Mets history. Although the Mets would get their revenge the day after by beating the Yankees 6-2. Although the Yankees would ultimately have the last laugh as they would shut out the Mets on Sunday. That game was a Friday night. The day after, obviously, Saturday, Mets win 6-2. Sunday, the Yankees destroy the Mets 15-0. Obviously, Yankees will ultimately get the last laugh by winning the World Series, but that win was insane. One of the best moments in the Yankees-Mets rivalry. One of the best moments in recent Yankees history. And that is why Luis Castillo is my all-time favorite Met. Alright, it's time for another Mount Rushmore. We're on the Columbus Blue Jackets now. A team that doesn't have a long history. A team that doesn't have a particularly good history. A team that, in its existence, has only won one playoff series. It happened last year when they swept the Lightning in one of the biggest upsets in recent NHL history. It's okay if you weren't sold on the Lightning that year, but I don't think you thought they'd get swept. I mean, they steamrolled the Lightning in that series. That was incredible. The correct Mount Rushmore is Rick Nash, Sergei Bobrovsky, Cam Atkinson, and Nick Foligno. Rick Nash is the easy choice for the first spot. First overall pick in 2002. Spent a lot of time with the Blue Jackets. Went right from his amateur team, the London Knights, to the NHL. Put up 39 points his rookie year. The year after that, he put up 41 goals. That led the NHL. He also led the NHL in power play goals that year with 19. It was widely viewed as one of the biggest travesties in hockey that the Blue Jackets could never put a good team around Nash. He spent 9 years with the Blue Jackets. They only made the playoffs once, in 08-09, when they got swept by the Red Wings. After that, he went to the Rangers. Was okay there, wasn't great, wasn't terrible. Had one really, really good year. But he didn't do with the Rangers what he did with the Blue Jackets. He got into the playoffs, made some deep runs, but like I said, only had one really good year. Sergei Bobrovsky is the Blue Jackets' all-time leader in wins with 213. Don't sneeze at that. That's pretty darn good. It's possible that could stand for a while for the Blue Jackets. He made 2 All-Star teams for him, won 2 Vezina trophies. Man alive, did I want him on the Islanders if they were going to lose Robin Lehner. I wanted Lehner back, but if the Islanders were going to lose him, I wanted Bobrovsky. Obviously, they ended up with Semyon Varlamov. Varlamov was solid before the break. Not great, not terrible. Same thing with Thomas Greiss. Whatever. Cam Atkinson has spent his whole career with the Blue Jackets and has been a perennially underrated player, excluding this year, which is fair because A, coronavirus, and B, he got hurt, only played in 44 games. Since his junior season, his 3rd year in the league, he's never finished with less than 40 points and 21 goals. Really underrated goal scorer. Just an all-around good player that doesn't get the recognition he deserves because he plays in Columbus. And Nick Foligno has just been a solid player all throughout his career. His father, Mike Foligno, was a solid NHLer, and after he scored, he would jump up. Not jump into the boards, just jump up to celebrate. Well, when Nick Foligno scored his first goal in the NHL, he did the jump, and it was really funny to watch. Foligno once had 73 points for the Blue Jackets. Has never been a great player. Even in that season, you never thought he was great. You always thought he was very, very good. And now he's viewed as a good second liner, maybe third liner on a Stanley Cup winning team, but you can get away with him on the second line. It was kind of tough to choose between him and David Viborny, but I went with Foligno because he's gonna score more points with the Blue Jackets. He's only 1 point ahead of Viborny in points for the Blue Jackets, 318 to 317. That number will go up next year. I hope you have a good weekend. Stay safe. We've made it this far without sports. We don't have too much longer to go. You know, I'll tell you, I'm going to watch the MLS. They have this tournament that they're doing. I don't know all the details behind it, but I'll watch it. I don't hate soccer. I don't love it. I consider myself a fair weather NYC FC fan. I went to their first game at Yankee Stadium. I'll watch them if there's nothing else on. I'm that desperate for sports that I will watch this MLS tournament. Kind of amazing that the MLS is going to come back before Major League Baseball. Until Monday, I am Jacob Valk saying that I try real hard not to get any muscles so I won't hurt them.